Well, I was born a long time ago, San Antonio, Texas. Um, was kind of raised by my grandmother. Uh, didn't like school very much, just kind of probably a little bit too difficult for me. So left school, started doing something that I didn't think I was going to do, but my grandfather showed me how to replace a water pump on my 57 Chevy, and then I became an automobile mechanic, and then I met your dad, and then we got married, had all three of you guys, and I went to work at Tom Benson Chevrolet as a line mechanic. Did that for about 25 years, and then
How was that with working with all the men?
it wasn't easy because that was in the 60s, late 60s, and they I'd gone to mechanic school, and they didn't like it because I was the only female there, and I wanted to go there just to get a kind of a diploma to say that I could do that kind of stuff, and they were real hard on me. But when they saw that I wasn't going to budge or anything, so they accepted me. Just like when I became umpire for baseball, I was the only lady umpire in San Antonio, and a lot of people didn't like me, but they saw I wouldn't budge, and they accepted me there, and then went into the health club business, and God blessed me with a good second husband. My oldest was Terry. She's sitting on the lap of Jesus Christ right now, and she was the first. And then 10 months later, Reese, and then 17 months later, Ray. And then now I have 7 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren.
So how'd you meet the Lord?
Oh, well, let's see, that was probably in the 70s during the Jesus movement. And I remember Aunt Virginia, we grew up as good Catholics, and, Grandma Klonick said, you're born a Catholic, you're going to die a Catholic. So, I just assumed that's what's going to happen to me. And then my Aunt Virginia came down from Dallas and started talking to me. I'd been separated, and she started talking to me about Jesus, and that you don't have to wear the beads off a rosary, and you can just talk to him just like he's your friend, and he become a part of your life. And that kind of confused me. I thought, well, poor Virginia, she's become one of those Jesus freaks, and I guess that's the way she wants to live right now. And I this was a couple of weeks after she left. My husband had closed the business, and some of the checks had bounced. Well, since I signed all the checks, they took and came by to my office and by the shop. I was working at a auto parts and machine shop, and they came by, and the police picked me up and arrested me. And never been in trouble in my life, even after belonging to all the hot rod clubs, racing on the streets, doing all the things I did. I didn't know what to do. They took me upstairs and stripped me down and did a strip search, and I was like, wow, this is pretty humiliating. And I got into a cell, and there was this lady there, and I said, what goes on now, and they were all laughing at me, and they were talking in Spanish, thinking I didn't know what they were saying, but I could understand them, and they were talking about they remembered their first time and all this, that, and the other. And so the lady told me, she said, well, they'll come and let you make a phone call, and then the night magistrate, they'll assign you an attorney, and then after that, they'll go ahead and the judge will make a decision whether you are able to leave or whether they keep you here. And so, boy, I sat in that cell and made my phone call, but I didn't call a lawyer or anything. I called my boss because he had my children. I wanted to make sure that they were okay. And he said, yeah, just go ahead and do what you got to do, and I'll take care of them. I said, okay. So then I waited, and then they took me downstairs, and the lawyer said, well, we'll do the best we can do, and maybe you'll be out of here in a few days. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. So I went upstairs, and they put me back in the cell, and I sat there, and I just remember just looking up, and it seemed like there was a little light glow at the top of the cell, and I was thinking, man, okay, my Aunt Virginia said that I don't have to wear the beads off a rosary, that I can just talk to you and tell you that I need your help. And I said, so if you're really who you are and can do what they say you can do, then get me out of here. And so I just said those simple words, and a few hours later, they came and got me out, and I got released on a personal recondance or something like that. I never even heard of that. But so that's where I knew that something had changed, and that whatever my aunt was talking about, even if she was a Jesus freak, that I needed to find out what that was. And so I went to Dallas and gave my life to the Lord, and been walking with him since 1972, and it's been an interesting walk. There's been hills and valleys and holes and chug holes and straightaways and curves and all kinds of different roads, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't change it. Reese, he was he's a middle child, so he had to have the balance, and he was very, very stubborn and was going to do things his way, always. So we had head-to-head combat several times. I guess the most famous story is the day that I wanted him to go to church, and he was standing at the top of the stairs, and I said, Reese, come on down, we're going to go to church. And he took his hands and he said, come and get me. And I looked at him, I thought, you don't value your life at all, do you? The other two already blasted by me and got in the car. He was still standing there. And so I went upstairs and brought him down physically and put him in the car. And then he decided to keep his leg outside the car so I couldn't close the door. So I took my belt and popped him so he could put his leg back in the car. So, needless to say, he did end up at church and sat there the whole time.
Where was Ray while you were dragging Reese?
Oh, he was in church being a good boy. No problems with Ray.
Really, no problems with Ray, but a lot of disciplinary problems with Reese.
More challenges with Reese, because the thing about Reese is that if you talk to him and he doesn't want to talk to you, you're not going to get an answer. If you talk to Ray, you always get an answer. It may not be an answer that you like, but I used to tease him when he was little. I used to say, Ray, your mother brought me to you to babysit you, and she had never come to pick you up. And so when I'd be scolding him and getting after him, he'd say, boy, I'll sure be glad when my mother comes to pick me up. So, he always had some kind of funny thing to say, or he wasn't a very problem child. I guess because all the trouble I had with my daughter and with Reese, he saw that, and he decided the best thing to do is just cruise along and don't make any waves.
When did you notice the big change in Reese?
Well, that was real interesting because I'd gone up to Roswell, Georgia to visit this girlfriend of mine, and I'd been attending Trinity Church in San Antonio, and so my husband had called me and he said, Reese called me and said he wanted to go to church with me. I said, are you kidding me? He said, no, he called and said he wanted to go. I said, well, great, glad to hear that. And so he went to church and accepted the Lord, and things started to change. And, one lady had said something about, aren't you so excited to see your son Reese accept the Lord? And get saved? And I said, not really. I said, she was like so shocked, and she says, why? And I said, well, because, the Lord already told me that me and my household would be saved. So, that doesn't surprise me. I said, but here's what I like is that having the opportunity to watch him walk it out. Because I know the challenges that are out there in trying to walk in a life with the Lord, when everybody else is calling you names and thinking that you're weird and thinking that you've gone on changed religions or done whatever. But watching him walk it out, and he was serious. So that's the thing about Reese. One thing is that if he has set his mind into a place that he feels like he needs to be, nothing's going to change him. Nothing. Not even me. But when he got sold out to the Lord, that was it. He was sold out. And he's never turned back. And his road has been just as rough as mine. And my son Ray's road was rough as mine. And my daughter, her road was rough, but God was very gentle to lift her out of that and take her home. But he was very kind to leave me with her 2 sons. So, and that's been a joy because now they have 2 sons, and I'm able to spend time with them. So really honored and blessed. I've never turned a challenge down, and everything that, like I remember when I was raising my 3 kids, I was working 3 jobs and sleeping 5 hours every other night because I didn't have any money to feed them. And so I found out that you could go umpire softball and baseball, and I could get paid $8 a game, and I could take my kids with me. Well, they said, you can't do that because, you're a female. There's no female umpires. And I said, well, let me be the first, So I think that any time that those challenges were there, like when my husband had broke his wrist and we needed money and somebody had to go to work, the only thing I knew how to do was fix cars. So they said, well, you can't do that. We don't hire females. And so I went to one of the biggest dealerships in town, hired me, Tom Benson Chevrolet, and then I came out on the front of the newspaper as, first female mechanic, line mechanic, So I think that it's just those challenges that I've never, turned one down. And if it seemed like it was going to be hard, then that's what I wanted to do, Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Reese would never let me go hear him preach. And finally one time he said, yeah, you can come, Mom. So I went and I sat there, and I sat at the back, and I just listened, and you don't think your children are really listening to you, as they're growing up. But we lived 7 years by ourselves, setting an empty table and praying that God would bring us food, and somebody knocking on the door and saying, we had a prayer meeting going down the street, and God told us to bring you food. So, we prayed in food, and, it was just that way all the time. We lived like that for 7 years. And when I sat there and listened to Reese preach that time, he said something that impacted me, and it's always stayed with me. He says, I never had to learn about forgiveness because I saw it modeled by my mother. So that was pretty cool to be able to, give that, because like I've told my kids, and I tell other people, I said, it's not about all the money you have. It's not about all the things that you have, but what you invest in people and in their spirit is what you leave with them that will never die. So if I invested forgiveness in him, then I can be gone and he's still operating in that way, and his children are operating that way. Yeah, I went to when I went to Burning Man my second year, I guess it was. I was really affected because there's this one girl out there, Nita, that she does she does tattoo art on your arms, and she really didn't know me that well, and she started drawing on my arm, and I was broken because she said that she saw me that I was the tree to my family, that I had the roots and I was holding the branches and I was helping them. And that's what I do. I try to keep our family together because I think it's important. And that's all I got to say.
All right.
That's awesome.